Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today we're back with our 7.3 and it's head day. So I'm going to show you what it takes to go through a set of heads to get them rebuilt and put back on your engine. And again, said it before, if you can take it to somebody who's competent, who knows what they're doing, and will do a good job, by all means, please take it and have it done. But if you're one of those guys who has to do it themselves, I'll at least try to keep you from screwing it up. So anyways, we'll dive right in, see if we can't get a set of heads done. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is cleaning off the head surface. What I like to do, I'll leave the valves in to try to keep the crap out of the passageways. I'll tuck a couple paper towels here in the holes best I can. And then away I'll go. One method is to sit here with a scraper, just like that. And honestly, for the unexperienced, that's the way to do it. Do not use a stone on it. Do not use a really heavy grit Scotch-Brite. I like to use the purple or the blue. Once you get into around the brown, that's getting really coarse. You run more of a risk of screwing it up than you do doing it right. So definitely stick to the scraper. It's the best way to do it. You're not going to screw it up that way. So now I use either my SK. These SK scrapers are really good scrapers, but the best way to go about it, and the cheapest, is to run down and grab you a Lyle razor blade scraper. Replaceable razor blades go in the end there, and honestly, it does a better job. So right there, just like that, that's how we're going to do it. Okay, so now that we've got that looking all nice and pretty, I will tell you, after you've done this once, stop and do it again. Then, stop and do it again. You're going to want to take a ton of passes over it, over and over and over again, until you stop getting anything up off of this, which is why a lot of people will use these. But I suggest, if you're not sure about what you're doing, don't do it. Just stick to scraping and just scrape it only. Don't use one of these. But if you're good with it, I'll show you how to do it. Just beware that you can screw it up easily with one of these. But this is the best way to do it that I've found. And I do these all the time, and I do them with one of these all the time. Practice has made me, able to do it without screwing it up. But as long as you're careful, shouldn't be a problem. You can use one of these. So I'll show you how I do these. Now, one of the important things to remember is don't press very hard when you're doing this. If you're seeing any sparks, ease up. If you're getting discoloration, you know, really bright shiny metal in certain spots, stop and ease up. But basically we're looking for, as you start to get down into the steel instead of the gasket material, you'll see the mill marks from when the head was milled last. Now with a fresh pad, I got a little bit here too deep, but nothing that's going to hurt anything. You can still see the mill marks. I haven't taken the mill marks out. As long as you don't, you should be okay. Just do not take the mill marks out, and don't be throwing sparks. If you're throwing sparks, you're taking out metal. So don't do that. Now, while I'm here, I like to go over the exhaust surfaces here, and if I had the intake plenum off, I would go ahead and do the intake surfaces as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then we should be ready to check flatness. Okay, what I'll do is I'll take a piece of bar stock. Now I do a lot of machining as well, used to be a machinist, and I'll take a 3/1000 feeler gauge and a piece of ground machine bar stock. You can use basically anything you want, provided it is a perfectly straight edge. It's worth it. Just go out and buy something cheap, but you know, Harbor Freight, whatever. Get a good piece of ground stock that's perfectly flat, that you can use it to check flatness, to see if you do have to go ahead and send it out and have it machined. So what I do is I'll just stick it there. I'll just kind of go across and make sure that my feeler gauge won't go under anywhere, and then just work my way down every so far, making sure that it is indeed flat. And so we're perfect that way. We're perfectly flat across. Now we're going to go this way. Now, I don't have a long enough piece. You're supposed to have a long enough piece. Of course, that being said, I generally send all my heads out to have them machined, so I really don't care. But since I'm doing this for you guys to show you how to do it, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to use. When I clean the surfaces of the deck, now I'll use this for cleaning the surfaces of the deck. Again, I use that Scotch-Brite pad, clean the deck off, and then I'll use a feeler gauge on it. But the head's basically the same thing. You just run across everywhere you can, every so far. Make sure that there's no high spots, no low spots, and then just work your way down, making sure that this won't go under anywhere. Okay, so now I don't know if you can hear me a little better. New microphone, so we'll see how that works out. The next thing we're going to do is get these valves out of the head, get them checked over, and make sure that they're not a problem. Okay, so you got two choices when it comes to valve springs. Either you can get the style that clamps over the whole deal, What you're probably going to get is one of these. It's just a standard screw down valve spring compressor. Working on a 7.3 though, I suggest you make you one of these. I made this in like 10 minutes. Basically, with the intake plenum off, you should be able to hook it into the intake and then push down on it and then pull your retainers out. Now I've left the intake plenum on this one, but anyways, those are super handy. Make one of those. I use them all the time. But today, I'm going to use this. So let's get busy. Then we just grab a magnet. No, I hate it when people take crap and don't put it back. Oh wait, people don't work for me anymore. Now I only got myself to blame. Now, seriously, I used it over here. Where the hell did it go? I really do apologize for the sound. The sound is, I don't know. It's a brand new microphone. See? I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not, but give it a shot. Anyway, so now we're ready to get these springs off. I've got the valve spring compressor put in there. I got it run down a ways. You just take this. Pull those off like that. Just like that. Don't lose those. And then voila, there's your valve spring. Now, I would keep it on there while you're doing this and hope it doesn't pop up in your face. I hate this. This is why I like that other valve spring compressor better. You don't have that worry the way you do on these. I hate these. Damn, I hate these. Now here we have a couple different choices for pulling the valve springs. We can either use this style here, which I hate with a passion. I think it's crap. It's a junk valve spring compressor. Throw it away. This one right here, I've had forever and ever and ever. This is the one that I sent to Mike McLaughlin, Diesel World magazine, when he did an editorial about doing valve springs in trucks. That was back in like 2007. I've had this thing since then. It actually works better than that other pile of crap, but I don't even use this one. I use this. So I made this in like 5 minutes. And basically the way it works is with the intake plenum off, I just hook it on the intake and then rock down and push down on the valves. Then I get my magnet in here, grab the keepers out, and then on to the next one. I do not like using these, but I did not pull the intake plenum, so I'm going to have to use it. And so it goes a little something like this. Okay, now we can pull these off. All right, now time to check valves. Now, one of the things you can do is grab these, give them a little wiggle, make sure they don't have excessive movement, and that'll tell you if the guides are any good or not. A couple of these have a little bit of wiggle, but definitely nothing that would worry me. So next thing we're going to do is pull this up. There we go. Okay, now we can pull these and look them over and check them for any wear. Now, you've got a lot of crap that builds up on them. You want to make sure that you get down to the metal and then look them over real good. So, oh man. So let's see if you can see that. Check out that puppy. Look at the wear. If it'll focus properly. Look at the wear on that. So we've got our valve seats don't end up wearing quite as bad as the valves themselves. But most of the time, the biggest problem with a 7.3 head is going to be valves. The valves on them get eaten up almost instantly, it seems like. It doesn't really matter if I pull apart, you know, a 100,000 mile truck or a 300,000 mile truck. The valves are just, every one of them are always like this. The seats don't generally have too much ate out about them. They're not usually too bad, but the valves though, I mean, look at that thing. Is just a knife edge on that. So we have brand new valves for it. And I'll go grab those. Now, if you watched my previous video, you will have seen these in the background. That's an exhaust valve. So let's start with it first, and we can kind of look at that and do a comparison from old valve to new valve. But yeah, most of the time on these heads, there's nothing wrong with the head surface. You very, very, very rarely ever see a head from a 7.3 that's warped. Not to make fun of 7.3s, I love 7.3s, but you ain't making enough power to ruin that head. So, so anyways, so we'll pull this, we'll have a look at that, and compare it to that one. Now, that's actually not in bad shape. Those really aren't bad. I mean, that's really not bad. Really not bad. We'll look at this one. That one's not bad. We'll look at that one. Again, really, really good shape. Focus, damn you. I don't know how well you can tell from that video what it really looks like, but the exhaust valves are in surprisingly good condition. Now you get a little bit of pitting. You get a little bit of pitting right there, but as long as it's flat and there's no holes, you know, ate out in it, the exhaust valves seem to be just fine. Now we'll go to the intake valve. So we'll check this intake valve, and the intake valves are really what I'm worried about. Those intake valves look horrible. So we will grab, make sure I got the right one. Okay. take this intake valve. Oh yeah, look at the difference there. Knife edge on this one, and nice blunt rounded edge on that one. Huge difference, huge difference. So the exhaust valves, I would not be upset about leaving them in there. So in this case, since I'm showing you what you would do in your garage, I will leave the exhaust valves in there. The intake valves, however, they have got to go. These are just awful. Oh my gosh, look at that. And you know what? It's like that with just about every 7.3 that I pull apart. The valves are almost all like that. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. But man, I sure picked a good one to show you guys. Holy cow. This one is just awful. But like I say, expect it if you're rebuilding your 7.3. All right, so let's take a look at our valve seats here. We'll clean them out real good. One thing to do would be take a flashlight in there and take a look at those real good and make sure that there's no pitting or scoring or anything like that going on. Make sure that there's no huge ridge here. It should be a somewhat flat surface. If it's rounded real bad, you don't want to use that. You'll want to redo the valve seat, but it should be nice and flat on all of them. So now what I'm doing here is I'm just spinning it, seeing if I can find, and moving it around, see if I can find any hard spots. Just kind of checking for stiff spots, or if the seat doesn't seem like it seats very well. You can usually feel it and hear the difference between a valve that seats well and a valve that does not. And then, of course, measuring. You know, when we do these for a normal customer base, the head's machined, the seats are machined, reinstalled valve height is adjusted, and you know, we go with we do our rebuilds with comp cams. 910 valve springs, and a 910 is a really good valve spring. There's slightly more seat pressure than the stock ones, and where these get eaten into the seats a little bit, you lose a little bit of spring pressure on your valves. So a 910 spring just kind of helps bring the spring pressure up. Plus, you know, over time springs lose their tension, so 910s, like I say, really good valve springs to use for these. But this is a garage rebuild, and we're doing this as if you were doing it in your garage, and did not have the equipment available to you that, say, we might have or a professional shop might have. So anyways, at this point, we've got our valve springs or valves replaced that need to be replaced. The exhaust valves look good. The intake valves are replaced. Those were awful. And like I say, expect yours to be bad as well. So we will go ahead and flip it back down and begin putting in our valve springs. Hello, dear.
Hi.
How are you? I feel like such an idiot sitting here talking to myself.
Hey, where are you?
Huh?
Can you come?
Sure. What are we doing?
I brought you food.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Let me get these put on, and then I'll be done. Okay, now we'll just stick our valve springs back on, and we'll be done. So now that we've got our valve springs put back together, it's time to show you guys how to do injector cups. Now, inside here, there is a brass cup that the injector slides into. And in a lot of cases, when you're getting fuel in the coolant, it's because of those. Now, you don't always have to replace them when you do a rebuild. It's easier to do it while it's out because it's out. But if you don't have the special tool, you don't want to pay for the special tool. As long as you don't have problems beforehand, you probably won't after the rebuild. But it is out. You do have the opportunity to go ahead and do it. I would, but what we're going to do is, I don't know anything about these heads. I don't know how this engine ran before I got it. Just for giggles, just so you guys can see how it's done, and so that I know I have a good head here. Even if I didn't do it the way I normally do it, it's still going to be a good head. Perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with what we did here. This will be a perfect head for another, 200,000-300,000 miles, no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to replace the injector cups. Basically, they're just held in with a little bit of Loctite along that surface and along that surface, and then tapped in. And you'll have to get some special tools. These are, again, one of the few special tools that you need to do this. And you don't necessarily have to have them to do this, because if you know that your injector cups were absolutely good beforehand, it's a good idea to go ahead and do them while it's out, because they're a bitch to do in the truck. But if it's out, you can do it, do it. These right here, this one here came from Rosewood Diesel Shop. Like most of the stuff I have years ago, I bought this. I think they're still available. Anyways, let's get to it. Put that in there. And then my favorite wrenches in the entire world, SK. These are the, oh God, what were they called again? X-frame, SK X-frame. They're 6-point instead of 12-point, so they won't round off bolt heads like most. Plus, teeny tiny, 1.7 degree swing arc, I think. Those are the clicks. Click, click, click. So very, very, very small swing arc. I love them. These are my favorite wrench of all time. Get you a set. They're totally worth it. They're nowhere near as expensive as like Snap-on and Mac and Matco and all that crap. Really, really good ratcheting end wrenches. So we'll just run that down. Then we'll run that nut down. And I cannot remember the size of this. Let's try this one. There we go. Guess I remembered it better than I thought I did. There you go. Pulls it right out. Now once it's out, you got to get the cup off of the tool. Best way to do that, big pair of pliers, just like that. Ta-da! And then we're ready for the next one. And then we're going to take our cup here. We're going to put a little Loctite on it. We'll put it around here, just like that. And then right there. And then when we're ready to put it in, this tool here, stick it on there like that. And then tap it in. Of course, you'll have to have the head picked up a little bit in order for it to get tapped in. That tip right there will stick through and hit the table. But so make sure your head's up, or just install it on the block before you put these in. But anyways, there's nothing to it, and we'll do that. Now once you put the new ones in, you need to be really careful. You don't want to stick anything through there that'll mess up the new brass. So be really careful if you're using a screwdriver like that you don't do any damage. You see all the junk that comes out with it? Those brass cups aren't so new, are they? I mean, they're new, they're just dirty. So make sure you clean them. And of course, anytime you put in injectors, always clean them just like that. Even if you're not replacing the cups, especially if you're not replacing the cups, before you ever put any new injectors in, always clean the cups just like that. Okay, so now that we have all of the injector cups installed, the valve springs are installed, we put some new valves in, intake valves. Hi, Tank. Man, we're pretty well there. The only thing I'm going to say that we really need to do yet is clean off the the gasket surface one more time before we go ahead and put it on the engine. But other than that, that's pretty well it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other head, and yeah. On our next video, we'll put the heads on the engine and finish it out. So thanks for watching. Hey guys, I wasn't planning on showing you me doing anything with this head, but I kind of wanted to show you how my nifty little valve spring tool worked. Basically, all it takes is stick the valve springs on like that and like that. Actually, we're not going to use this one. Check it out. The internal spring broke. So, whoop. Ta-da! See that? Yeah. Junk spring. So, grab this one here, throw that one on. And then basically you just take the retainers here, you shove them in, like that. Then take this, since the intake plenum's off, it'll actually work. Take this. Just like that. Like that. And like that. And that's all there is to it. I've got some intake valves that I got to wait on Ford to send me. But anyways, until then, the exhaust valves are in. Again, now these intake valves really aren't that bad, honestly. Let's see here. Focus you. There we go. Now those intake valves really aren't that bad, but well, I'm going to go ahead and throw some new ones in it anyways. But yeah, like I say, just thought I'd show you my little valve spring tool. It looks like crap, but it works great. See ya.